She has sex with everyone, as it is supposed to be like that in France, you know.
Don't you think that the word shallow is a bit pretentious? I don't mind to be shallow.
Yeah, I don't mind to be pretentious. Paris could lose his soul, for sure.
For France, we market French culture. French culture, French culture. I love it. I love it using wine. I love it. This is very French.
Let's have a glass of wine.
This is by the main course. I learned everything about the French politics during dinner. The Parisian is horrible to visitors.
I tell you,
and
it's
to
true.
the tourist. Welcome to the Pearl Lam Podcast. Before I begin, I would like to thank you all for the comments you made in the podcast. And actually, I do read the comments. And please do not forget to subscribe to the Pearl Lam Podcast. Now, I want to introduce my very dear friend and also a wonderful journalist, curator, Judith Benhamou. And I let her introduce herself, and then we can talk more about what she's doing.
Bonjour, Pearl. So I'm a curator, I'm a journalist, I'm an art critic, I'm a traveler, I'm a mom, I'm French. What can I say? I have a column in Les Echos, which is like FT in France, for 32 years, but I'm not so old. I began very early.
10 years old.
Exactly. And I created 7 years ago a platform, a blog with a YouTube channel and Instagram and all that, dedicated to art and art market.
And everyone follows you, from museum directors to avid collectors. They all love your blog.
Exactly, I hope so. And in fact, I have very influential followers all over the world. The first reader are in New York, in fact, which is quite surprising. So I became global in a way. And my life is very interesting because of that.
So today, I'm taking Judith here to talk about French culture. Mm-hmm. From the first day, I know about France, even in Hong Kong, they only talk about French culture. What is French culture?
I think French culture is about not being shallow. The problem today is that in this big society, global society of consumption, people consume, and they are so shallow. But if you want to feel...
Don't you think that the word shallow is a bit pretentious? I don't mind to be shallow.
Yeah, I don't mind to be pretentious. Shallow is about being on the surface of everything. And if we want to have pleasure, if we want to blossom, we need to go in depth. And that I was thinking about this question of French culture and the fact that I am working in France, even if my audience is global, is because it allows me to go in depth, to understand the art history, for example. I like the idea of being really dedicated to contemporary art, but to understand contemporary art and how can be pertinent contemporary art, you need to know about art history. This is not being shallow.
But also about contemporary life as well, right? Your French contemporary life.
Yes. And, for a while, France was a bit an old country, but now Paris became a really international platform. And that's what's fascinating, and that's why we are lucky.
What's fascinating about because we talk about French culture, is no countries in the world would just say that, for France, we market French culture, French culture, French culture. And then next thing I learned is Comité Colbert. Okay, French culture, Comité Colbert. So what... I always say that now China is going through a French, first China was American and now they want to be French. So what do you mean by being French then? Do you know French culture doesn't mean food? Does it mean fashion? Does it mean art? What does a French person think about French culture?
I read a book about French art history, and the guy was a specialist of 18th century art. And he began saying that, for example, the woodmaker of the King Louis XIV, 15, 16, they were all foreigners, and they became French. What is interesting about France is the ability of swallowing and giving back, swallowing talents in a good way and giving back a mixture of creativity. And that's what I like. I was thinking about this French culture notion, and what's interesting is the capacity of France of attracting talent. I give you an example.
Yeah.
I thought about my schedule in the few last days. For example, I began on Friday going to Beyeler Foundation, which is in Basel, at the frontier between France, Germany, and Swiss. I went there on Friday and I interviewed Canadian photographer, artist called Jeff Wall.
Jeff
in the
Wall,
70s, of course. In the 70s, let's speak to our listener, in the 70s, he invented a special system to create a light box to make a new kind of photography, which is between painting and cinema, but a still cinema. So I interviewed this guy, and it was extraordinary. We spoke about his best friend, Rodney Graham, who also lived in Vancouver and who was also a photographer, artist, etc., who died last year. And I interviewed Rodney Graham a few years ago in Dijon, in a contemporary art center. So this was my experience on Friday. On Sunday, I went to Saint-Paul-de-Vence. And in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, in south of France, near Nice, there's a foundation. One of the most famous foundations in the world is called Fondation Mag. And they have one of the best collections of modern art with Giacometti, with Miro, and many other artists. And there was a fashion show. I was invited to this fashion show organized by Jacques Mus with a young designer. In fact, he was born in the same city of south of France as me, Salon de Provence, that no one knows. And I was the only art critic invited there for the fashion show in Fondation Mag by Jacques Mus. And it was extraordinary. And there I met some young influencer like 25, 28. We had so much fun, and they were not shallow at all. They were extremely creative, not the same culture as me. And they have African origin.
Yes.
And they are extraordinary. I had my best time with them, and the fashion show was amazing because there was a dialogue between Giacometti's culture and his fashion show of Jacques Mus. Jacques Mus is a very talented fashion designer. I came back, and on Tuesday morning, I went to interview Bijoy Jain with an architect who is having a show now at Fondation Cartier in Paris. And the Fondation Cartier, the building is designed by Jean Nouvel, the famous Pritzker Prize architect. And Bijoy Jain invented not an architecture, but a feeling. When you go there, you feel so good. He has a very special proposal, and we spoke together about Mumbai, about his childhood, with hippies, communists, doctors, philosophers all around, classical Indian dancer all around him. And so what I want to say is between Friday and Tuesday, I went to Canada, I went to Swiss, I went to Mumbai, and with Giacometti Swiss again, and with Jacques Mus to the world, and with the young African origin influencer to Africa in a way. And all that together, all this density, all this culture, it's France. That's what's interesting about France now. And because people are open-minded and not shallow.
So you are talking about multicultural. You are saying that now France is a multicultural world. Because
the world of culture in France is like that. It's not all the world because all the world in France, all the mind, because there's, also narrow-minded people.
Yeah.
But I think culture in France people of culture in France are very curious. And that's what we need in life. I'm doing my job
But
because I'm curious.
But let's go back to talk about, because what is interesting is when France wants to promote themselves, they will go out to talk about the French culture. I think starting with Jacques Lang. I mean, during the Minister of
he
Culture.
was the big ambassador.
Yeah, he was a big ambassador. So actually, all of a sudden, the whole world is focusing in French culture. They look at
Really?
it. No, they look at it, okay, because, when you go to China, the French culture is all the haute couture, the food, the jewelries, right? So I think the French culture from very beginning, when Jacques Lang was promoting it, it was for trading, for business, rather than talking about French culture as itself. And now you're telling us about, what is really happening here? What is the real culture here?
But I have to confess something. Most of the people in the culture business are starving. So it's glamorous, but in the same time, you don't make your living from this culture. But you are fed, you have some privilege, you have some power.
But isn't that in the social leather in France, especially, is when you are in culture, when you are an artist, you are in a much higher ranking than if you are as a banker.
No, I'm not sure. It's just a parallel world where you have less money privilege, but you decide at the beginning of your life that you will not make a lot of money. Probably you will not have the most fancy shoes, and I'm very sensitive to shoes. But or you will not have a big house, but you will be able to blossom. I remember once my daughter, when you have a kid, you dream of your kid to feel completely secure. That's your priority. And once my daughter told me, "Oh, don't imagine I will be a banker once." So it was very clear. Now she's a teacher of architecture, in America.
Yeah.
Not in France, in America. We don't know why. But the thing is that
America pays much more.
yes, and American university are really excellent for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you need to decide that you will not be privileged in terms of money if you want to be really involved in culture. That's it.
But in France, in general, people doesn't look at money as the most important thing because they rather to have holidays, right?
No, not only holidays, but it make me
They rather have other things.
It make me think about something. I have a friend who is American, a very wealthy banker, and it took him a while to understand why my priority was not to make money. And slowly he understood I had some kind of power, I was going to good places, I was sophisticated without money. For him, it was very difficult to understand. That's really another state of mind. Do you want to make a priority of making money, or do you want your brain to work in a good way?
What do you think about this Americanization of culture? American culture from food, from Hollywood, has infiltrated the whole world. How about France? What do you think about it?
American culture really works very, very good, very much in France too. The problem is the
McDonald's everywhere.
Exactly, that's a real problem because in America you see a lot of very fat people, overweight, and it's coming to France. For example, in America, I love yogurt, for example.
I love yogurt as well.
Yes, if you want to buy a yogurt, you see so many additive in the yogurt in America. You can't find something plain. It's terrible. That's a real problem. And so it creates army of people who are sick and overweight, and that's really scary. I hope this will not happen in France, but we are going slowly on this way, that's for sure.
And how about beside food, what else? What else has Americanized the French culture?
I think in France they have created some some protection. For example, still the French cinema is powerful.
Yes, the French cinema is very powerful, and there's very different way of direction as well.
But there's also good things about America. For example, there's some kind of pop culture, American pop culture, which is cool, I think.
American pop culture and music influence.
Exactly. And also, what can I say? Yeah, I think there's part of it.
How
which is
about Emily in Paris?
But if you are tired and you are watching TV in your bed by night, it's very cool. I feel a bit uncomfortable about the way she's dressed, which is not at all
French.
French.
Not that
I
French
think
at all.
it's very American. I don't like the notion of bad taste because there's no taste. There's just fashion. But she has a very strange way of being dressed.
That is the stylist, right? It must be. I mean, it must be because if you are in France, if you see how the French are, you don't dress like that.
No, not for sure not. But for example, I was going to this cafe since I was student, since I was 19, I was going to this cafe called Café de Flore.
I know.
And there's an episode at Café de Flore of Emily in Paris, so you can't go there anymore. And they all have this special hat, the red beret. And all these ladies from all over the world come like you go to a religious place in pilgrimage with your special red hat, and they go there. They want to feel like Emily in Paris.
And so, what other impact does? But this is, how does it impact in French culture or the French? Paris, because they see where Emily goes, so they went.
Yeah, exactly. No, but Emily is a privileged young lady, so they show very privileged side, So I have no problem with that. In fact, she has some grace and she's very free. She has sex with everyone, as it is supposed to be like that in France, But sometimes she's a bit shallow again and pretentious again. No, but I think it's a cool show. In fact, I wrote an article and I titled it "The Emily in Paris Effect in the Art Market" because
what is the effect on the art market? I love
because
that.
the main fair in the world, Art Basel, has decided to settle down in Paris. So everyone, all the gallery are coming to Paris. That's why.
Of course, because Paris has so much more things to do than Basel.
That's for sure.
And the food is so much better.
That's for sure too.
And there's so many. So much shopping to go around, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of Emily Paris effect in the art market. Hauser and Wirth, for example, opened recently, last October, in Paris. They have a huge place. And so it keeps on like that. And so it becomes global. There's a danger of this globality in Paris that Paris could lose its soul, for sure.
Okay. So this is a very confusing thing because Paris wanted to be the top city. So obviously you have a lot of tourists coming in because it increased the France, the tourism contribute to the GDP. But at the same time, Paris or the French wants to protect its own culture.
Yes.
So what's the compromise? So that's why we always feel that when we come to Paris, the French, the Parisian they do not like us. The Parisian is horrible to visitors and to the tourist. Is that reason why you love us, but you don't like us? You love a bit of us, but you resent.
Yes, but I'm not really a good example because I'm traveling all over the year.
I know, but in general,
everywhere.
Of course,
now people are mean. For example, me, I go to certain cafe and restaurant on purpose because in other places they really treat you badly. I hate that.
Yeah.
They are rude. They are rude to anyone.
Even French would say, I love it. They're rude. They're simply rude.
Extremely rude. Yeah, what can we do?
But this is not just the Emily in Paris syndrome, right? This was just that Emily in Paris brought attention to Paris, and then when people come there, they want to visit the same place,
All the same place, yeah.
place. But that is not really a huge impact in the French life.
Yeah,
In the
there's an
French-
issue now because if you have so many tourists, they need to find rooms. So there's more and more Airbnb, which mean to rent a house, not a house, a flat now in Paris. It's really difficult, you know. So it's very expensive. So all the not wealthy people, regular people, need to go outside of the city.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a problem. So it will make the city less authentic. Like, for example, in Venice now, you have less and less Venetian, you know?
Yes, I know.
So in Paris, it's becoming like that, like a big museum. Pearl, what is really the perception of France in Asia and above all in China now?
French culture, French culture, French culture. I think your ambassador or your consulate general or your cultural attaché in all these countries has done a fantastic job. Like in Hong Kong, you have a French maid. I mean, you for 1 month it was just promoting French culture, and then now you have a French year in China. So a lot of exchanges. China is bringing the Chinese culture here. French is doing a French culture there, and I think your government knows how to use culture to do the exchange of building friendship and all that. If you go to Japan, Japan literally, I mean, everything they adopt. I mean, I think Japan has better Mont Blanc.
Exactly.
Than
The patisserie
yeah.
in Kyoto
Yes, exactly.
are
It's
better than in Paris.
much better than in
No,
Paris.
not much better. Don't make
Much
me
better.
suffer.
Much better.
Patisserie is a serious matter.
And the roux bouillon there is better than here. I mean, most of the food and cuisine there is better than. I think Japan knows how to adopt it and make it better. I mean, this is, and if you see all all these Japanese girls, their dream is to visit Paris. They will save up and come and visit Paris.
True.
Paris, but at the same time, I think Japan, I mean China as well.
Chinese.
China,
there's a
my
lot of
God, China. Do you know how many Chinese coming to the haute couture show? I think now the haute couture, haute couture too is partly supported by
There's
the
a
Chinese.
lot of hipsters in the Chinese hipster in the French street in Paris.
I think France has done so much to promote the culture in fashion, design. Christian Lier is opening everywhere, right? And food. It's amazing.
True.
I mean, I remember at that time, a long time ago, I don't know whether the Comité Colbert still do it, but Comité Colbert also do a lot of exhibition promoting, like all the brands, Baccarat.
Comité Colbert, madame.
Yeah, Comité Colbert.
Colbert. And in fact, what is really interesting is that French people don't really realize this soft power they have. They always criticize. Culture is about debating, fighting all the time and criticizing everyone. It's horrible.
I mean, it's so nice to hear a French saying all that. If I say that, people will be attacking me. But it's true. But what are you going to do to make them realize that France is so powerful? The French culture is the most powerful thing, because with this soft power, you can do you can promote French, you can promote trade, and you can do exchanges.
But it's French that they are self-destructive. There's this paradox about, I think French people don't travel enough, so they don't realize how good is life in France,
The funniest thing is when you talk about people criticize or complain, is I always say that whenever I go to to a French dinner with a French host hosting the dinner. Everything I learn about politics is by the main course. First, appetizer people will be trying to get polite. By the main course, I learned everything about the French politics during dinner because everybody will be complaining. No one is happy. I mean,
No, I really sometimes I think, how were they able to create the Eiffel Tower? There was probably so much opposition to this project. Always, when you want to change something, there's some opposition. And if you notice it, each president of the French Republic want to give something to the country. For example,
because they want to create a legacy, of
yes,
course.
Mitterrand created the pyramid at Musée du
Yes,
Louvre.
yes.
Chirac created Musée du Quai Branly.
Yeah, Kebole.
And
Yeah.
each of them tried to make something, it's very interesting. So in a way, power is really linked to culture in France.
Absolutely, especially in France, you always all the prime minister, they want to have a legacy, and the legacy is always evolved with culture. I mean, Mitterrand actually made the minister of culture to be the speaker of parliament, unheard of.
Yeah. And Macron, there's something amazing about Macron. President, I want to interview you. Don't remember you said you would accept. I hope he's listening to this podcast. So Macron, when he goes in foreign countries, he meets artists. Who does that? So, for example, he went to India and he met Subodh Gupta. He went to his studio. So I phoned to Subodh and I said, "Oh, what's going on? What did he say to you?" He said, "First, all my friends came to my studio because we never have any politician meeting artists in our country."
This is how nice. This is the
good, no?
strongest way to tell everyone one is culture is so important.
And so Macron makes things like that which are very surprising. For example, there's a big place for great people of France called Le Panthéon in Paris. So it's like a big cemetery of the greatest people. And there he asked Anselm Kiefer, a German artist living in France, to create a group of fresco for inside the building. So this is
he has chosen the right artist, actually.
no, but this is crazy. He chose a German artist who doesn't want to live in Germany, living in France.
I'm sorry,
to create
art
painting.
is not about passport.
Yeah,
either you're a
for
good
sure,
artist or
but
not a good
the
artist.
symbol is so strong.
Of
Is that
course it
also
is.
that you accept that your former enemy is now really your friend.
But this
It's
is
a
not.
vision of history. It's great, I think.
What can Asian country learn from France? I mean, many Asian countries, we need to still find who we are and what we represent. And let's talk about China. I think at this very moment, China, the propaganda machine is to make people very proud of China, being very nationalistic. But I think what makes the world respect China is the Asian Chinese culture. The Asian Chinese, how they behave and how they self-culture, self-cultivation and all that. I think all that is lost. So until the time that we know how an Asian Chinese or contemporary Chinese is, so it's hard how to even promote this, even though there were a lot of Confucius Institute, the Chinese government built.
But I
all
remember
around.
that on the early 90s, you were collecting old furniture,
Oh,
old
yeah, I love it.
architecture.
Yes, I love all my Shanghai Deco furniture and because
You began early on to collect.
yeah, I began early on to collect because I thought it was really the time of creativities. Because when you talk about Deco coming into China, when they don't understand, they never even seen what Art Deco is, and they use the Chinese making furniture techniques without nails, and
Fascinating.
then fascinating to make this, and then with some Chinese motive.
But we can also speak about something very controversial, which is the loot of the Summer Palace by French.
Oh, no, French is one of them.
French
the loot.
and England.
The
So
allies.
this is fair to speak about it too. At auction, from time to time, one sees some imperial.
I think at this present moment,
artifacts.
I mean, when you say about the 19th century, the loot of the summer palace, the loot of the palace is not exactly. I think they
No, it's
rebuilt
Summer
the summer.
Palace.
It is the summer. The loot of Summer Palace. You can see a lot of things at the Guinea Museum, and on the British Museum. So if we have to go to the past, I think all these museums has to give back everything, especially the British Museum from the Egypt. I mean, every
Guinea,
single
not
country.
so much, I think. But
No, because remember, Britain at the time British Empire rules the world. So every country they loot.
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, if we have to go back, my God, no more British Museum.
And no more Musée du Quai Branly for
No,
African art.
no more, yeah.
And no more Vietnamese or Cambodian art.
No, exactly. So I don't know whether one should go back and talk about that and try to get back all these
No, but
treasures.
Now things are coming at auction too, which is another story than the museum.
But things are in the auctions. If they, I think there's a rules that if it is stolen, you cannot be in the auction. I don't.
No, but if it's the army who looted it, not really. But that's why some
But the
rich
Chinese
are buying.
The Chinese are buying, and many of the Chinese are buying. They give it back to the government.
Yeah,
it's
which
a
is
favor to
nice.
the government, which is
It's
very good.
nice and fair.
Very good.
And it's good also for the local Chinese to be able to
be
understand
able to appreciate
how crazily beautiful it was. For example, I like the parallel made between Louis XIV and the
Channel.
Oui.
No, Channel is
Oui.
a Channel. Yeah, it is.
Yes, it
Louis
is.
XIV and Channel.
So you imagine that at the same time, in beginning of 18th century, there were two very powerful rulers,
and Channel.
one in China, one in France, and who had such a beautiful art. This is crazy. This parallel of vision.
And Channel, the early time of Channel is China the height of the most cultural moment. But then,
I'm afraid, Pearl, that now you become a bit French because you speak about culture of all over the world.
I am international. I'm universal. Culture is not limited to one country.
No, but the open mind without being shallow is very French. I'm sorry.
Because open mind is very Chinese as well.
I want to say something. You know the difference between, for example, I realize it, between American wine and French wine. The big difference is what we call in France long en bouche, which means that the taste stays long and there's an evolution of the taste of the wine in your mouth still. And when
this is French or American?
French. And when you take American wine, it's very good, but only one flush. And that's the difference. So probably, as my English is so clumsy, probably when I say shallow, it's inappropriate or a bit extreme. But what I want to say is that when the French wine is like the French interest for culture. It stays long in your brain, and there's an evolution which drives to another idea, and which feed your mind. That's what I want to say.
I love it. I love it using wine. I love it. This is very French.
Let's have a glass of wine.
Okay, Judith, so what is next? What's your next move?
Recently I curated a very successful show at Guggenheim Bilbao. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, I missed that show. So stupid.
Yeah, I'm not able to forgive you.
Oh.
So it was a dialogue, because in my brain, in a way, there's no boundary. So there's no geographical boundary, but no time boundary too. So it was a dialogue between the drawing of Richard Serra, the very famous American sculptor, and Georges Seurat, who was a post-impressionist painter. And Georges Seurat created a very special type of drawing which inspired all 20th century. So I was showing drawing from Georges Seurat, which belonged even to Jasper Johns, even to Matisse, even to Picasso, and even to Richard Serra, in front of Richard Serra drawings. And it was an extremely successful show, which attracted 500,000 visitors.
Wow,
in 2 months.
congratulations.
It was super exciting. So now I'm thinking about the next step. I will organize a very tiny show with a Chinese collection during Art Basel Hong Kong. I've just published a book about 10 extraordinary stories about when Paris was the epicenter of the art world. So 10 stories speaking...
Hey, it's coming back now, Paris being the epicenter.
Exactly, but I'm telling a story about, for example, Louise Bourgeois, the famous American artist.
Spider.
who lived in France, and before becoming an artist, she was an art dealer. So I'm telling stories like that, and of course I keep on with my platform, Judith Benhamou Reports. I've 10,000 followers all over the world, and I'm telling all my stories from when I'm traveling, and now I'm preparing an article about how Impressionism is a 21st century movement. For example, the fact that Monet was painting at the end of his life like abstraction.
Yes, absolutely.
And the going back to nature, and the fact that there were some women important in the art, Impressionist art, and things like that. So it's very interesting. I like my adventure, and I would like new people to follow me.
Always new territory,
Exactly.
Judith. So of course you have all those new readers following you.
I hope
won't
so.
doubt.
I want to tell you a very funny story, not really in relation, but in Hong Kong, there's a place called New Territories.
Yes,
right?
of course.
And so I had such a dream about this place because of the word New Territories. I thought it was like a dream, and I went to see an artist there, and nothing special. It was just an industrial place. Because I just want to speak about this anecdote about the power of the words.
Yes.
New Territories. It was magic. It was this artist, Firenze Lai.
No.
You don't know her?
No.
So she's a very talented Hong Kongese artist living formerly in New Territories. I always want new territories.
Thank you, Judith. It's so nice for you to join me.
It was super. Merci, Pearl.
Thank you.
Your generosity. Of your generosity.